Hey everybody, Heather here. Thanks for joining me to color. Today we are going to be coloring this super cute Magnolia image called Ski Edwin with Snowflakes. Isn't he adorable? Love him. I will put a link down in the description box to the card kit and all the supplies I used. I would love to have you come shopping with me. And if you're not into card kits, there are tons of other things in the store for you to pick up. Paper, Copic markers, distress inks, embellishments, all kinds of great stuff. And always make sure to check out the clearance section too, because I put a bunch of stuff in there. Also, if you have a question, please leave me a comment and I will get back to you on that. I'm happy to answer all questions. So I've already stamped my image on Nina 80-pound solar white cardstock with Memento Tuxedo black ink. So let's color. Alright, so let's start out by outlining our image, and for that we're going to use B_0 and our colorless blender. And I'm going to start with my B_0, and I'm going to go right around. I'm going to start down here on his hand, and I'm just going to go all the way around my little guy here. And if you do this first, if you color on something you didn't want it on, it'll make it easy to erase it. Up here, and we're just going to work our way around to the other side. And back down here to the ground. Okay, then I'm going to take my colorless blender and I'm just going to lay my pen down on the ski here. I'm going to start at the white part of my ski, and I'm just going to brush it out over my blue and into my white. Same thing for this side. We're just going to go over the edge and soften that just a little bit. Work our way around to the other side. And this works best if your Copic colorless blender is full. So you want it to be not empty and dry. So I'm kind of liking that. I might go over it a second time. It's looking kind of, needs to be scrubbed just a little bit more. Soften my line just a little bit more. Next, let's add some color to our snow, and for that we're going to use W1 and W00, and I'm going to go up here and I'm going to add just a little bit underneath of his bottom here on that snow mound, and then the same down here underneath of his skis. Just give it a little bit of a shadow there, and I'm also going to get over here underneath of his hand, like that. Then I'm going to grab my W00 and I want to go over the top of that last color. I don't want it to be quite so stark. And I also want to add a little bit of shadows right here underneath of his leg and next to his ski. Go down this side. And soften the line on this one. And also over here, I forgot to add a little bit of my W1, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then take my W00 and go over that to soften the edge. Next, let's work on his skin, and for that I'm going to use E11, E21, E00, E000, and for his cheeks I'm going to use R43, R20, and R30. I'm going to start with my E11. And I'm going to add some shadows, so let's go down here to his neck and add a little bit right here. And then I want to add just a tiny dab of this dark up here underneath of his hair. Next I'm going to, well, I think I'll bring this down just a little bit more. Down here even with this side of his hair. Next I'm going to grab my E21 and I'm going to add some color down here on his neck. And then I want to outline the rest of his face. And then I want to soften this line, so I'm going to touch down on top of my 21 and use a little brushing stroke. I call it flicking. And just flick that color away from the last color out here a little bit into my white space. Now I'm going to go with E00. And same thing, I want to touch down on top of my last color. Bring that out here a little bit more. Yeah, I think I'll bring this cheek over here out. I want to cover up these dots for his, on his cheeks there. And I also want to finish up his neck. And then I'm going to go with E00. Yeah, let's brush this out here a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and leave that little white space there, and I'll fill that in after I do his cheek color. So now I'm going to grab E43, and I like to go in between the dots with my E43, or not my E, sorry, R43. But I want to go on the edge and bring that color out. Same for this side. I'm going to go between my dots with my R43 and pull it out here into the dots. I'm going to grab R20. And R30. And I think I'll go back again with my R43. Just add, pinken these up. He's outside, so I want him to look like he's rosy cheeked. Okay, now for my skin tone, I'm going to go back with E21. Let me turn my boy here. I'm going to take my E21 and I want to lay my pen. I kind of have it kind of sideways a little bit. And I want to touch down and I want to drag that color out a little bit further, about halfway into the cheek zone. Then I'm going to grab E00 and go right over the top of that last color. Pull right out here into the middle. I'd say past his eyeballs. And then I'm going to go over the whole thing with E00. And I'm filling in that little white spot I left in the middle from at the start. Next, let's add some color to his hair. And for that, I'm going to use E57 and E53. And he's got some swirly hair, so I'm going to start down here on this side. And I'm just going to add some little swirls in there. Some little dash lines. Like that. And I'm going to take E53 to fill it in. I'm just going to go right over the top of that last color and color all of his hair in. I think I'll go back and add a little bit more shadow, so I'm going to take E57 again. And let's add a little bit more shadow up here, close to his little hat brim. Next, let's work on his hat and his shirt, and for that we're going to use W2, W1, B000 and B000. I'm going to start with my W2. And let's go up here and start on his hat. So I'm going to go ahead, and he's got his hat has a couple of little bumps here, so I'm going to exaggerate those just a little bit by bringing my pin in. And then over here he's got one, so let's go ahead and color that in and go down here on the side. Next I'm going to grab W1. Let's fill this section in, and I want to go over my W2 just to soften that edge a little bit. Next is B000. So I'm laying this down over the top of both of my grays and covering up that whole section that I just colored. And next I'm going to take B000 and just go over the whole hat. Now we'll go down here and do his shirt, and again I'm going to start with W2. So let's put in some shadow. So he's got a little wrinkle in his collar here. And over on this side. And for his sleeve, let's go up over his shoulder. And down here he's got a couple little bumps on his shirt. I'm going to exaggerate those. I'm going to do the seam of his arm over his knee and do this wrinkle in his shirt, and then to the bottom of the shirt and back up over his leg and the seam of his arm, and then where his collar is touching the shirt I want to do a little bit in there. So I'm going to go with W1, and I want to soften my edges, so I'm going to go right over the top of that last color, make it a little bit wider. Next I'm going to do B000, and I want to go and fill in exactly on the gray that I've already laid down, so I'm just laying this over the top. And now I'm going to take my B000 and just fill his shirt in. And that seems still a little harsh, so I'm going to take my W1 again, and I'm going to flick over the top of my gray again. And then go over the whole shirt again with my B000. Let's hop down here and do his boots next. For that, we're going to use E44, E43, and E42. I'm going to start with my E44. And let's add a little bit next to the ski and on the bottom. And there's a little wrinkle right here in his boot. I'm going to exaggerate that. And then up here where it looks like it's behind, I'm going to put that. And I'm going to go down next to his cuff. Same for this boot. I want to go down the inside, along the bottom, and up the side of his ski. And then for the cuffs, I want to add this color along the bottom down here. So I'm going to give it just a little bit there. Now I'm going to go with E43. And I'm going to fill in the whole top part of his boot, or the bottom, I guess, not the cuff, but the rest of his boot. And And for his cuff, we want to add a little bit of color. I'm just going to brush that right up a little bit. And then I'm going to fill in the cuff with the E42. And I think I'll go back with my E44 and add a little bit more shadow on my cuff here. And E43. And then my E42 to soften that line. Well, we got the browns out. Let's hop over here and do his gloves too. And for that, we're going to use E43 and E42. So I'm going to take my E43 and give it a little dab next to the ski. Same for this side. And then I'm going to fill that in with my E42. There's not much glove showing there, but just a little bit. For his pants, let's use E34, E53, and E50. I'm going to start with my E34, and let's add some shadows. Let's go up here and start there at the edge of his pants. And let's work our way down here along his bottom. And back over here to this leg cuff. Bring that up, and then he's got a little shadow that the artist put some dots, so I'm going to go ahead and exaggerate that a little bit. And then down here on his pants, I'm going to add some lines of my own. Next, I'm going to do it with E53. And I want to touch down on top of my 34 and flick away from it, pulling some of that color away and softening it. And I'm going to fill it in with my E50. I think I'll go back with my E53 again and soften that just a little bit more. And then E50 to fill it in. Next, let's do the skis. For that, we're going to use C2, C0, and our colorless blender. I'm going to start with my C2, and I'm going to go right along the edge of this ski. I'm going to draw me a thin line so I don't have to worry about going outside the lines. Now I'm going to turn it just a little bit here. And I want to lay my pin down on top of that line and flick up just a tad, softening that edge of that line so it's not quite so harsh. In a few of these areas there is some dots out here in his ski that I'm going to exaggerate or just add some more shadows. So right here I think I'll just bring my line out a little bit further than I did the last time. Then I'm going to go with C0 and I'm going to brush right over the top of my C2 and pull that out here to the other side. And then I'm going to take my colorless blender and brush this edge back towards the dark. So I'm going to go from my white edge back towards the C2. And then for this side, again, I'm going to start with my C2. And I'm going to draw my line so I don't go outside the lines. I'm just going to make my small line up the edge of my ski and to the top here. Let me turn it a little bit more. And now, just like last on the other ski, I want to add some more shadows. So I'm just going to go right up that line. And then I'm going to bring my pen out in a few areas just to exaggerate it just a little bit. Next, I'm going to go with C0. And my colorless blender. And again, I'm going for my white and pushing back towards my C2. And I think I'm going to go over it maybe again with my C2. So I'm going to start over here on this side. I want to exaggerate that just a little bit more. Make it a little bit darker, and same for this side. I should add some shadows up here to his hat too, so I'm going to use W1. And on the little puff for his hat, he's got some little lines already on it. I'm just going to go in and add some shadow lines right on top of those. So I'm trying to keep them small. Same for his hat down here. I'm just going to go over the little dots that are already there and just work my way to the other side, adding a little bit of shadows in there. Let's add some dots to his cheeks. So for that, I'm going to use my Sharpie white paint pen, and I have shaken it with the lid on. And now I'm just going to take my pen and add some little dots on here, like that. And that is our finished Edwin, what is it? Ski Edwin with Snowflakes. I forgot what he was called. And doesn't he look cute? And again, here is the finished card. Super cute. So I've added some Spica glitter pin to all these little snowflakes. I think that's what I used. Maybe I better look at my instructions. No, I used some Smoots Glitz and Stardust for the snow and for all these little snowflakes up here. So I just took the little paintbrush that comes with it and dabbed that on there. And I didn't add any sparkle to his hair or his anything else on there. You could also do for his hat, if you had some liquid applique, that would look really cute if you stuck that on there, or some crafty fluff, you could stick that on his hat. But it just adds a little bit of shimmer and shine to it. So I hope you had fun coloring with me today. Make sure if you have a question to leave me a comment and I will get back to you. Also, if you liked the video, if you could hit the like button, that would be super. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would love to have you as a new subscriber. So we'll see you next time. You have a great day. Bye.